Good morning, everyone. It is November 13th, 2025. It's Thursday. It's about 8:30 in the morning. I wanted to jump in here real quick because I saw something last night that I thought I would share with you guys about seeing this algorithm. So let's jump into it. So we've built this story in the past videos that we have about this section that we're in for Bitcoin. Also, yesterday, feel free to take a look at yesterday's video. We are kind of like stuck in this zone right here. I took a long. I also took a long on Ethereum, and yeah. So I want to zoom in here for a second. I want to show you something. So yesterday I saw this. So when we were over here yesterday. This is where we started our morning. We started our morning over here in the previous video, and we got this bounce that was here. But yesterday it did this move up, and then it did like this really sharp move down. And I was looking at it building this support right over here. Now, I'm going to go into these candles in a moment, but I started noticing something about this pattern. I've seen this pattern before, and I've actually drawn it on my chart plenty of times. This is what I see. Up, down. That's what I see. And then I start realizing, wait a second, this looks almost identical to a news pattern. So we were down here, and I was watching these candles get formed right here. And I thought to myself, is that a news pattern? Was there news that was put out yesterday? Now, I don't know what the news was or anything, but I did end up going over to this S&P 500 to take a look. So when I went over to the S&P 500, and I looked over here, we had this. We had this drop right here. We were right over here. We bounced, came back over here, and then I started realizing, wait a second, this is a news pattern. So if you take a look, sorry, kind of, okay, anyway, this is where we were yesterday when I was talking about that stuff, and when we actually started our video. And it came down here, and then on this chart, it actually came up here. So while we were down here on Bitcoin, the S&P 500 was right over here. So I thought to myself, wait a second, let me take a look and measure this. Let me measure this move from this section right here, from this section right here to the bottom. How big is that? So I measured it from here to here. It's a 2% move. That's a pretty good move. But I do know that yesterday we were talking about if ETH was having a lot more strength than Bitcoin because of the dominance. So while we were down here, I looked over at Ethereum to see what Ethereum was doing. And Ethereum was doing the same exact thing. Again, these charts do what they do. But here was the move, right? I believe that Ethereum was right over here when we were talking yesterday. So Ethereum didn't bump up that high. It did bump up, but it dropped really hard. And this is where I was when I noticed that, hey, this might be a news pattern. There might be some news going on. So what I did was I measured this move back to the mean, which is the middle, from here to here. That's almost a 5% move. So what I was doing was I was looking at these candles forming. Remember, here's a wick here, here's a wick here, and look at this. This came and tried to take out the wick. It was at this point that I said, you know what? I'm going to DCA in. So I did. I threw some more into Ethereum to ride that wave back up to the mean. So at this point, I started out over here. I ended up DCAing, and yesterday, because of this news pattern, because I know the way that it works, it always comes back to this middle right over here. Now, again, I don't know what the news was. That doesn't really matter because this is the algorithm, and it's going to eventually come back over here. So my idea was that I was going to take advantage of this right here, whatever I can grab, because I am low enough in the chart where I can, I've taken profit along the way. I always take profit, where I can actually tap into this, maybe get a small percentage. So I did. And here are my cards that I have. So this was my first entry that I have. You can see this is, I got in at 30.89. That is this one right over here. And I took a heavy amount of profit on this one. Then I left a little bit of a bag in there. And then when it came down lower, I threw all of my profit again back into here, and it moved my position to here. See, 3250.73. It moved my entry over here, and I again took 120% profit. I took heavy profit right over here. So now I'm in this news play, and what I decided was I'm only going to take about 20%. So I DCA'd in, and it knocked my entry to 40%, and I've got an additional 20% on this. So on this move right here, I got an additional 20%. So I've taken my profit from there, and I still am in this position. This is where I am right now. And I took this position with the idea that it's possible that we go lower. But at this point, this area, I have really tapped in profit. So I'm able to ride this if I want to, or I can stop myself out right over here at break even, and I've taken a lot of profit along the way. What I'm looking for is, it's possible that this candle might be taken out. And if this candle is taken out, I would be looking to buy in right over here. But already I've tapped this zone out so much that I'm kind of in a comfortable place that if I do get stopped out, let's say I don't, if I do get stopped out, like over here, for example, or I start to go underwater, I've gotten a good amount of profit in this area that I wouldn't be taking that much of a hit if I did. But that's silly to take a hit when you don't need to. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this with the idea that this is my long area right here. And I will use this candle over here as kind of my stop out zone. So if this candle comes down and it brings me down a little bit lower, I will use this candle right over here as kind of a support area that it should be bouncing on. If not, if we go any lower, like for example right here, I will cut my trade, because now my position came from here. This is my candle that I'm using as a reference for my stop loss. So I'm using this one, and this is kind of my extreme. So that'll be my stop loss for this position. And if it comes down here, I will buy in again, because I do feel that we are going higher. So this is an example of just looking at the chart, actually understanding that the chart is telling a story, and being able to tap in when you can. And of course, just like I was saying yesterday, this area is risky. If you are, taking a long in this section, then really this is the area. This is really your risk area right here. So the fact that I was over here, which was basically a risk-free trade at this point. Now it's not a risk-free trade, but I'm just underneath everything. And the same thing over here. Now I'm kind of in a position where this bar that has the long word in it is my support. So now I got to shift my sentiment a little bit. This is really my area that I'm playing. I'm right over here. This is it. Not down here. I'm not playing this. I now have shifted my idea over here because of where my entry is. So if we do come down here and we build some support and go, then yeah, well, I'm in a good place, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this to come down, really kind of like play this zone, because right now everyone still thinks that we're going to zero. All right, I think that's good for now. I'm going to look in these charts a little bit later on. It's really early now. I'm waiting for the market to open up. This is the market that's running right now on the S&P, and if you could see, we are coming back to this area here that was a gap before. We didn't really find any support on it, so maybe we'll find a little bit of support here. I am looking for this to come up higher. Just tap like right over here. This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for it to tap over here, because I'm actually looking for this range to start playing out. So yeah, we're kind of like in that zone, right, of just waiting. And again, like you see an opportunity that you can take, then if it becomes clear, and especially if all of these candles are saying the same kind of thing to you, then we're good. At this point, what we have here on Bitcoin is we have this candle here. This candle came and retested this area right here. So if we come down, this is the structure it needs to get over top of. It needs to break that structure. We broke this structure over here. Are we retesting that? I'm not sure, but maybe we'll come down over here and bounce. I'll take a look. We'll figure it out. But in the meantime, that's exactly what I wanted to show to you. I wanted to show you that algorithm that you can see, and you can see it clearly here. Here it is. Here's the mean right here. Mean, news play, right? Even though it was struggling over here, it came back to the mean. It came back. It was the path to nowhere. And the same thing went with Ethereum on that. And you can take a look yourself again. But this over here though started up a lot higher. It was a small, because it had so much strength. So it went up here, came back down here, and then it came back to the mean. This is the mean right over here. This is where the news actually hit. So anyway, all right guys. If I see anything else, I will make another video. If not, have a good day. Same as always.